Did you just put the ring on, or are you in the first few years of your marriage? Welcome to the First Year Marriage Show, a podcast dedicated to helping newlyweds navigate the first few years of marriage. My husband, Marcus, and I will be sharing marriage tips to help you build a strong foundation for your marriage. We believe having a strong foundation is essential to having a happy, healthy, and lasting marriage. We will also be learning from the experiences of awesome married couples who have been where you are today, taking from them lessons to help you build a strong foundation for the lasting marriage you desire. Take a deep breath, relax, learn, and enjoy the show. Welcome to this week's episode of the First Year Marriage Show. I'm Ashley Kusi. Before we start today's episode, we want to thank the following for leaving us ratings and reviews on iTunes. We have Iron Will Gates, JV Crum, Hey 8, Taylor White, Hulis Rutus Erectus, P. Divine, M. Suler, James Woosley, Tammy H1, and Adam A. Brooks. The ratings and reviews that you guys leave on iTunes helps this podcast to rank a lot higher so that other newlyweds will be able to discover this podcast, and hopefully it'll impact their lives and marriages. To leave a review and rating, visit firstyearmarriage.com/iTunes or firstyearmarriage.com/Stitcher. Thank you and enjoy today's episode.
I'm your host, Marcus Kusi, and in today's episode, I'll be sharing the first year marriage story of Dustin Riechmann. Dustin has been married for over 13 years. He's a father of 3 great kids, an engineer by profession, and the author of the best-selling Amazon book called 15-Minute Marriage Makeover. This book helps couples to get back the spark in their marriage and reconnect by just spending 15 minutes or more every single day. Justin also blogs regularly at engagemarried.com and is committed to helping busy couples enjoy the marriage they love. So Justin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you met your wife, and when you got married?
Sure thing, Marcus. First of all, thanks for having me, and thanks for doing this show. It's a real gift to be able to give to first-year marriages because it's definitely a crazy time.
Yeah.
So like you said, I've been married for over 13 years, and my wife's name is Bethany. We actually met in high school. So we were, high school sweethearts. We went on our first date when I was 16 years old. So a long time ago. So that's us. We live near St. Louis, Missouri, and in the middle of the U.S. here, and our family is top priority. So happy to talk about that and talk about our experiences in marriage, and hopefully it'll help some other people.
I'm really glad you took some time out of your busy schedule and decided to share your experience with us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
How will you describe your first year of marriage in 1 or 2 words?
I would say unmemorable. And I say that because people sometimes ask me, how were your first years of marriage? And honestly, now 13 years removed and 3 kids, under the age of 9, we have a hard time. My wife and I joke that we have a hard time remembering that first year because all we think about is what do we do with all our free time? Because we should have had a lot of free time, and we should have been doing a lot of vacationing and just relaxing. And I guess we didn't do that because it wasn't very memorable. But I say that jokingly, of course. And that first year, I don't have a lot of specific memories outside of like our honeymoon and moving into our first place together. But I do know down the line just how important and foundational that time was. And certainly look back at that thinking we could have done so many things better, which I'm sure we'll talk about here to set our marriage up for success and avoid some of the rough patches that we ended up hitting.
Wow. This is the first time that I've interviewed someone who said that their first year was something that was unmemorable in a joking way. So it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to listening to your experience as we go on with our conversation. After you guys got married, I know you had a wedding and you got married and you moved together into a new apartment, your new home. You started creating your own family and your own traditions. Did you guys have to make any adjustments as to living to each other? Because now that you're living in the same building, you have different family upbringings and different perspectives as to how to do things in the home. Did you guys have to worry about the adjustments that you were going to go through in the first year?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we obviously we knew each other really well. We had been, I guess, together or dating for 5 or 6 years, before we were married because we'd met so young. So we knew each other really well, but we had not lived together before we got married. And that's just a whole different experience. I mean, even if you have a college roommate, when you live with someone, you get to know them at a whole different level. And of course, when you're married and that happens, you realize that there are some sticking points. I think some of the things I remember, are just the division of household duties, and I would make assumptions about, well, Bethany, my mom did this, or I know your dad did this, so I kind of had these roles already formed in my mind, and she had some differences of opinion sometimes, on like who would handle paying the bills, or was it really always her job to do grocery shopping and things like that? Things assumptions I had made that when we actually spending almost all of our time together outside of work, it did definitely created some, I wouldn't say real conflict. I think we worked through those issues pretty well, but certainly required a lot more communication than we were accustomed to.
I'm really happy you guys were able to come to a compromise or be able to talk through the experience that you were going through, the different adjustments that you had to make with each other. Did you guys have any conflict or any like really tough time during your first year?
One thing, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, was kind of coming from completely different family backgrounds. There's always these family of origin issues. And I know one of the big conflicts we had was our first holidays together. So we were married in the summer, and that first Thanksgiving, Christmas, unfortunately, a lot of our, grandmas and extended families have passed away in the last 11 or last 13 years. But at that time, we had a very large extended family on both sides, and we had very different traditions about like where do you go on Christmas Eve versus Christmas morning, and of course we didn't have kids yet, so we didn't have our own real family, so we had just formed a new family, I guess is how I would put it, but we still had all these ties back to our family of origin, and that created a lot of conflict actually, and a lot of the way we ended up resolving it was basically just spending all of our holidays driving all over the place and making like 8 stops because we didn't want to miss out on anybody's get together.
So with the driving, was Bethany happy with everything, like being sitting in the car for let's say 2 or 3 hours just to move from one place to another?
I wouldn't say she was happy, but I think it was a good compromise. So, it was neither one of us loved what we had to do, but it was better than ignoring one of our families. So we just kind of, didn't do either family great as far as our visits, but we didn't miss anyone. And we kind of found a better balance over the years where we learned to trade off holidays and set expectations with her parents that we will be with you on Thanksgiving, but we will be at my parents on, say, Christmas Eve night. And we kind of split the families a little bit from holiday to holiday. And then as we got a little older and had children, all those traditions start to change because the family dynamics have changed because there's a lot more of, nephews and nieces out there. There's a lot, it's just a different dynamic, and people understand. You start getting power in the overall family because now the kids are here, and that's who the grandparents want to see. So now people come to us. We don't have to do all the traveling. That was definitely a big. That's one of those things that engaged couples really never think about, and it can create a lot of conflict actually, especially if someone's got a really tight tie to one of their parents. That you get into these struggles where the spouse feels like, well, you're choosing your mom over me. Like we're married now. And it can definitely, we weren't to that extent. To us, it was more of an inconvenience. But definitely something to think about if you're in your first year of marriage and you haven't went through your first set of holidays yet.
That's pretty good. With your first year, I know as a married couple, now that you've been married, you have to combine your finances, or you have to at least sit down to talk about your finances, where you are concerning the money, the debts you are bringing into the marriage, student loans, credit card debts, and all the other things that are related to money. With you guys in your first year, did you have to go through any adjustments concerning how you handle your money together as a married couple?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say looking back in that first year, that is some of the things that stand out, and between then and now, that's been probably the most dramatic changes that we've made in our marriage is how we handle money and a lot of issues around that. But yeah, that first year, when you come together again, we didn't live together before we were married, so our finances were completely combined all at once. I had a new job out of school as an engineer. Bethany was still in college. She had quite a bit of student loan debt. I had managed to escape college with no student loan debt. So I inherited all her debts, and I had the only income, and I was totally fine with that. But it definitely created a lot of discussions, because we didn't have very much money for a brand new married couple, and we had these debt payments that I wasn't used to making. And she was still in school, and we were trying to pay for that. And so we neither of us had really done a budget before. And I guess we really didn't do one until several years later when we started realizing just how serious money issues were. So this is one of those things I talked about earlier where at the time, it didn't seem like that big a deal. It was kind of like, yeah, we have car payments, we have all these things going on, but it's just normal. We didn't think about it. We got about 5 years into our marriage, and it was actually when she became pregnant with our oldest son, and that was for a lot of couples. This is like the oh my gosh moment when you get pregnant and you start thinking about the preparations and what all this means. And for us, that culminated in realizing that we were $54,500 in debt. And that didn't include a mortgage or anything. That was just car loans, student loans, some credit cards, some furniture loans. And that was a real freak out moment for us. And I remember that number exactly because we put our foot down that day. We communicated much more openly than we ever had. We got on a tight budget. We worked really hard to pay that off. We can talk more about those details if you're interested, but money for us became a real rallying point, I guess. It became a real uniter where we got behind a common cause. We wanted to get rid of the debt. We wanted to have a lot more freedom in our lifestyle, so we weren't necessarily, we always didn't have to depend on a single income and a single employer and those types of things. But we wanted to have control over our family's destiny from a financial standpoint. So that became a real passion of ours. And again, I can share as much of that as you want, but that's definitely when I think back to foundational issues in our marriage, communication is always going to be there. But for us, the most kind of tangible thing was money issues.
Oh, okay. I'm really interested in learning what you guys did together to be able to work on your student loans and be able to gel your finances together. Because I know one option will be for other couples will be for them to look into generating a side income or getting a second job or getting a better job with a better pay. So what did you guys actually do? I'm really interested in knowing what you actually did. And I'm pretty sure that our listeners are also interested in knowing what you did together.
Well, good. Yeah, man, we could spend a whole podcast on this, but I love talking about this topic. So for us, it started off, I'd say it was more of a combination. We certainly did some cutbacks, but the real fuel to our debt snowball and getting out of debt was extra income. So at first for me, that just simply started with working a lot of overtime at work. But from that point forward, this has been an area that I've learned a lot more about, and it's really blessed our family a lot, and that we've built multiple streams of income, numerous side businesses and types of side income. And, for your listeners' benefit, if you'd like to, I can kind of run through some personal ones, but probably more importantly, I kind of see 3 tiers of what people can do for side income.
Share those with us. We are really interested in knowing all
Great.
of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So kind of at the top tier, the hardest thing to do, but the most long-standing benefit would be to start a side business, right? So a lot of people think of side income. This is what they think of, but they don't know where to start. I've certainly got several side businesses now. And that's kind of the high tier, and there's quite a bit that goes into that. We can break down those steps, or I can give you some resources, or probably a better way to do that. So that's kind of tier 1 is the hardest, the thing that's going to take the longest. It might take you a year to start a really sustainable side income, but that's going to carry a lot of momentum. That's going to be a long-term thing that maybe you can do full-time instead of a regular job. So that's tier 1. Tier 2, what I like to think of as more like one-off products that create residual income. So let me step back. So tier 1 for me, engagedmarriage.com is a website that Bethany and I have. It started more as a ministry, but it certainly is still a ministry, but it's become a substantial side income, and it's a side business for us. But it takes a lot of time, and that's taken 5 years to build. So That's kind of that tier 1 for us. Tier 2 is more of a one-off product. So this is something that you don't have to take a year to do. This is something that within a month you can create, and you can kind of stick it into an existing marketplace to make side income. There's a couple things that come to mind here. One of which is probably the lowest barrier to entry would be something like a Kindle book. So if everyone's familiar with Amazon and the Amazon Kindle platform, well, that's, if you have expertise in any kind of small niche topic, you can write a 20 to 40 page book, and, with the right cover and the right kind of topic, you can stick it in that store, and without knowing anything about marketing yourself or having any real platform, you can make sales. And I've got several books there ranging in topics. So you mentioned 15-Minute Marriage Makeover.
Yep.
That's a book that's in there, and most of my sales come from Amazon. I don't promote it extensively. It's mostly just organic things, people looking for marriage books on Amazon. Another odd one that maybe would be more interesting to your readers, because I have a lot of knowledge about marriage. I've done blogging for 5 years. I do coaching. So that's a little bit specialized, but something that I think someone can relate to a lot more, because I'm not a physical therapist, I'm not a doctor at all, but I wrote a Kindle book on shin splints. So shin splints, if you're not familiar, if you're a new runner, as you start running, a lot of times people will get shin splints, and it's really painful lower leg pain from running. So I was having that issue. I ran a competition called the Tough Mudder. It's a big obstacle course, 13-mile run with my brother-in-law. He talked me into it. So as I was training for that, I got shin splints, and I was like, oh, this is terrible. So I searched high and low trying to figure out what to do. I tried compression socks, different shoes, all this stuff. And I ended up finding kind of a combination of really simple things with some stretching, some icing, some foam rolling. It's basically like a 5-minute exercise you can do every day when you have them, and it gets rid of the pain. And then there's some strengthening exercises you can do too with some bands. And it worked really well. I helped some friends of mine that were on our team training, and it helped them. So I was like, oh, this is cool. So I shot a YouTube video. I put it out there, and it started getting a lot of traction. And people were emailing me and asking me questions. So I was like, this is neat, you know? So I made a little manual called the 5-Minute Shin Splints Cure, and it's a Kindle book. And that's like a $5 book. And that sells all the time.
Wow.
So that's just, you know, something I made. I learned, and then I just put it on paper, and I knew it was something other people were interested in, and now they learn. And out of that $5 sale, I get $3.50, and I don't do anything to market it. It's just there. The YouTube video, you know, people find that, and then people also find it on Amazon. And then I kind of layered, just to take that example a little further, of this is kind of the mindset I've developed over these really 8 years of side businesses. So I saw that opportunity. I made the Kindle book, and I thought, well, there's all these pieces that you need. You need a foam roller. You need really good gel ice packs. You need a resistance band. So I ended up making a kit. Basically, I buy all these things off of Amazon at the very lowest price for the different components, and I put them all in a box. And I put my book in there with it, just a printout of the book, and I call it the Shin Splints Treatment Kit, and that's on Amazon. And then I also created a simple site where I sell it directly that I link to from my YouTube video. So, and it's, of course, it's mentioned in the Kindle book. So basically, people they have shin splints pain, they find my video, they buy this $5 book, and then a lot of them will say, yeah, I need all that stuff. And I've bought it at wholesale prices, so it's actually cheaper for them to buy the kit from me than it is to go buy each piece themselves. And so I make, you know, $15 on a $47 box for the shin splints cure. So that's just one example of a little side business I started based on my own problem and solving my own problem. That's kind of a tier 2 thing, right? So I don't have a big business about shin splints, but it was something I did in about a week, and it's created residual income now for over a year, and it's been a real nice addition to our family's bottom line.
Nice. So what is the tier 3 side income that you wanted to talk about, and then any other resources that you have that listeners might be interested in checking
Absolutely.
out, or you think will help them?
So tier 3 is like the quick and dirty, right? So this is something that it doesn't require any knowledge. This is something that anyone can do, and this is how I got started. And an example of that, it could be a service, you know, it could be going to mow lawns. It could be, you know, just anything, the types of things you would think of that if a teenager needs money, like they're going to deliver pizzas, mow lawns. You can still trade your hours for dollars. And that's not a bad way to do it, especially if you're just looking for a boost of income. But what I prefer at this level is something called like arbitrage, which basically just means you buy low and sell high. There are a lot of ways to do this. One of the most popular right now that a lot of people do is they'll find clearance items. They might go to Target or Walmart, and they'll find clearance items, and there's apps and things like that you can scan, and you can see what these same items sell for on Amazon. And you can actually buy these up, and you can ship them to Amazon, and you'll have it's a free Amazon sellers account, and people buy them off Amazon. Amazon takes their fee, and then they send you the rest. So there's a profit margin there often if you find the right items. And if you look up, you know, Amazon,
I think it's FBA.
Yeah, fulfilled by Amazon.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't realize that Amazon stocks some of their own stuff, but a lot of what they do is third party. So people send stuff to their warehouse, they handle the shipping, but they're not the originators, right? They're not producing all these goods. People send them to them, and a lot of those are just mom and pop people like us. So that's a really easy way to get started. But there's other ways that you can do that outside of Amazon. And the first business that I had that made over $1,000 a month as a side project was buying and selling golf clubs. And this was another one of those scratching my own itch things where I was wanting to buy some clubs. We were trying to get out of debt, so I wasn't wanting to spend a lot of money. So I started buying them on Craigslist and just locally. And I was looking at what they were on eBay, and what I found was a lot of times you could buy this stuff locally from people that just get one out of their garage. And if you clean it up and you write the right description and take some nice photos, you could sell it for much more on eBay, because you're basically going from a local market here in my small town to selling to everyone in the world on eBay. And what I quickly kind of found that certain clubs I knew a lot, I learned a lot about. So I knew, well, this club's going to sell for $50 on eBay. I know it always does, right? So, but if I could find it in a thrift store or in someone's garage sale, or people list them on Craigslist, and I could buy them for $20, or if I could buy a whole set and then split them up and sell them individually on eBay, I could make a good profit. And I did that for about 8 months. I ended up finding things I liked that required a little less day-to-day effort, because this, required going and getting the clubs, cleaning them up, taking photos, taking them to the post office. But all I was doing was exchanging these clubs from a local market to a global market, and I was making consistently over $1,000 a month of extra income in that way. So that's another example of buying low and selling high. So just a couple of quick examples. I've personally probably I counted it up one time. I think I've had like 11 side businesses of different types, or side,
Wow.
Little side hustles, little things like that are unique ways to make extra money that don't require a lot of time away from my family, because that's always the big constraint. And yeah, you asked about resources. There are a lot of good ones out there. Your listeners might be familiar with a guy named Dan Miller. Dan Miller is a really cool guy. He's a success coach, a business coach at 48days.com. And he is a huge proponent of residual income and multiple sources of income. So I had the opportunity to do a workshop with Dan. So basically, for my audience at Engage Marriage, I said, wouldn't it be awesome to have him on here, and then I can share my own stories? And we had an awesome workshop where we got together and we brainstormed a bunch of ideas for people. He talked about what you can do starting right now, to get started in different areas. Great response. We've had a lot of people have success with that. And so we have a workshop. I had a special link for your podcast. So if you go to firstyearmarriage.com/side income, that'll take you right to a page. It shows you, what all the workshop was about. It's very low priced. And with the workshop, what's really cool, for about the price of the workshop, Dan included a copy of his book called 48 Low or No Cost Business Ideas. And it's literally just 48 ideas, kind of like the stuff I described here, that you could go through, find like the one that resonates the most with you that you could start this weekend. And, there's really no excuse not to get started and start building that side income, because for us, that's been the key to a lot of freedom and a lot of good things in our marriage. So thanks for letting me share that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know everybody will be glad to check them out. I personally have read the 48 low-cost business ideas, and I've implemented some of them. I tried selling on eBay, and I'm trying to do the FBA with Amazon pretty soon. So that is something I'm working here too. And I also checked out the workshop that you did with Dan. You guys shared a lot of gold nuggets and different ways that everybody can, apply in their own situations to be able to generate a side income for their family or for whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I think so. We come from very different generations, and I think that's great, because he's still very technologically minded. He's in his 60s, I'm in my 30s, and I think we had a really nice spread of ideas that really anyone at any age or any stage of their marriage could find something that's going to really work well for them.
Yeah. With your first year, I know there are a lot of exciting things that are going to happen within the first year. For us, sometimes it was just fighting over whether to leave the toilet seat open or closed. For you guys, what were some of the funny or exciting moments that you had during the first year?
Yeah, I remember when I think of funny moments, I actually think our 1 year anniversary. I don't know if you've heard of this tradition, but a lot of people say you get a piece of your wedding cake on your wedding night, and you save it and you freeze it, and then you eat that. You eat that on your first anniversary as like a good luck charm. So we tried that, and it was the most rancid, nasty thing we ever tried to eat. And Yeah, I remember that. We just had such a funny time. So we got that out and we each kind of fed each other a bite and we just spit it out like, oh my gosh, whose idea was this? This is terrible. So that was a good funny memory for us.
Wow, that's really exciting. I've never heard about it before, but I'm really thankful that you shared it with us. I think we might do during our 40th anniversary just to experience it and have the moment that comes with it.
There you go. Yeah, you won't forget it. So.
Yeah. I know you've been married for about 13 years, and with marriage, there are a lot of things that come up as you go with your journey, as you progress in the marriage journey. And I know you're going to need some resources or programs. With your marriage, what are some of the programs or resources that really impacted your marriage, and how did it impact or make a difference in your marriage?
Yeah, boy, yeah. There's a lot of great ones. For a marriage specific book, the one I recommend to everyone is called The Five Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. It's often the number one marriage book in Amazon if you want to go look there. That made a huge difference for us. I was a little skeptical. I didn't read it till like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I felt like I knew quite a bit. I'd been writing and reading a lot about marriage, so I'm like, I know what your love language is, what it does is identifies there's 5 different love languages, and every person identifies most strongly with one. So I thought I knew what Bethany's was, and she thought she knew what mine was. And as we went through and did the quizzes, because it comes with the ability to do a quiz, you can actually do it online for free. We found out that we were both wrong, and I thought hers was what mine really is, and vice versa. And that's often happens because we get skewed perceptions. I assumed that she's going to like what I like, and that wasn't the case. So she thought I was physical touch, and it really wasn't that. It was words of affirmation. So I really liked it whenever she told me that she was proud of me or that she appreciated my hard work. And I assumed that hers was words of affirmation, but hers was actually quality time. Like, she didn't care so much if I complimented her. It was that I was just there with her. So anyway, that book, I really recommend it. It's an eye-opening book because once you understand that, you can communicate and give love and give romance so much more effectively. Another book that's not a marriage book that stands out for me is one called Lynchpin, and that's a book by Seth Godin. It's written as a business book, but it's all about understanding kind of your unique value and why you are irreplaceable in the world, and God created you uniquely. And I resonated with that not only from a business standpoint, but a lot more as a family leader. Like, I'm the linchpin of my family. I have a responsibility to step up and be there. And so to me, that was a real empowering book as well. And the last one I would selfishly point out is a lot of people I think would benefit from 15-minute Marriage Makeover. It's actually a really quick book. It's more of a 28-day workbook where it's 28 different things you can do that take less than 15 minutes together to really impact your marriage. And it focuses on what we talk about on our site as the 4 pillars of marriage, which are sex and intimacy, communication, romance, and of course, money. So it's basically, it takes a week at a time, and it has some exercises for you to do together to draw closer. And it's all about helping busy couples who don't feel like they have any time to reconnect. But we show you how to do that, even if you only had 15 minutes a day. So that's a good one. And a lot of newlyweds will say, nah, all these things I just said, we're great. This is a fairy tale, right? But a fairy tale will wear off. You will realize that you need some tools and some resources, and I hopefully those are helpful to you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your 15-minute marriage makeover. I checked it out on Amazon, and I read the reviews, and it was a lot of great reviews. And one thing that we actually also do as a married couple is that every day we try to spend at least 5 minutes together, irrespective of how busy our schedules are. And that has really helped us with our marriage. So I highly recommend our listeners to check out the resources that you shared with us today.
Oh, that's great. That's what it's all about. Is we talk about being, 5 minutes is awesome too, but 15 minutes a day, just being a couple, meaning just being together, and then you can go your separate ways and get on your laptops and do all the things you want to do. But you can carve out 5 minutes and remember why you got married and why you mean so much to each other.
Yeah. So before we end our conversation today, what is the one lesson or advice that you wish you had known before you got married or during your first year of marriage?
I would say that marriage takes work, and marriage takes practice. So that's something I joked a minute ago about the whole fairy tale thing, and that was certainly where we were. We've been high school sweethearts together through college, and felt like this marriage thing is going to be easy. I mean, we're in love, right? I mean, we're in love, so that's all you really need. Well, that's not at all that's not all you need. I mean, you're two different people, and you're going to change a lot over time, individually, and it's going to take work to have a successful marriage, one, but more, higher level than that, a happy marriage and something that you feel fulfilled with. And so that's where, these tools, doing things like having a sacred 5 minutes a day, or doing date night twice a month, or once a year, planning a weekend as a retreat together. These things that you're kind of like, yeah, I'll get to that. I'll do that one day. It's when you don't do those things and you don't practice every day having the marriage that you want, that's when things will slip out of your grasp, and before you know it, your marriage will not be what you want it to be. So be proactive. If you want to get better at golf, you have to practice every day. Well, If you want to be the best husband or the best wife, practice that and invest in it, and listen to these podcasts and read these books, and make sure that marriage is a top priority. And as long as you keep it a top priority and you invest in it, then it's going to bless you many times over. So that's the lesson we've learned over the last 13 years, and it's one that for a first-year married couple is definitely the one I would leave them with.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this lesson with us. I believe it will help all our listeners and all the newlyweds who are listening to us today. Even with other married couples who have been married for 10, 20, 15 years, they will still be able to apply this lesson in their marriage.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Before we end the show today, what is the best way that our listeners can connect with you or be able to get in touch with you if they have any questions, either about creating a side business or talking to you about how they can spend at least 15 minutes with their spouse or with their husband or wife every day? What is the best place that they can connect with you?
Yeah, the central location for all these things is engagedmarriage.com. And if you go there right on the homepage, you'll see an opportunity to join our email newsletter, which is really what I would recommend, because we've always got great free resources and tools that come with that. And we're always recommending new resources and tools and showing you our blog posts and podcasts and places, interviews that we've done. So engagedmarriage.com. And if you're involved in social media, we're definitely I'm on Twitter at Engaged Marriage, Facebook at Engaged Marriage. And if someone wants to shoot me a personal email, it's Dustin, Dustin, at engagedmarriage.com. And always happy to hear from couples. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much for sharing your first year experience with us. I really appreciate you coming here today to share the experience and share with us the lessons that you've learned. I'll be linking all the resources that we mentioned today in the show notes.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I appreciate being here, and it's been a real pleasure. And thanks for having me, Marcus.
Yeah, thank you too.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the First Year Marriage Show. To submit a question, feedback, or suggestions for the podcast, visit firstyearmarriage.com/feedback. Apply what you've learned today and build a strong foundation for the happy, healthy, and lasting marriage you desire. Enjoy your marriage. Enjoy your life.